Hello everyone, Russ of Aquarimax here. Sorry for the strange venue here. I'm in a car. I'm not driving, of course. I'm just waiting in a parking lot for my wife. We're going somewhere in about an hour, but I figured I've got some free time. I can do a live stream. It's been too long, and I wanted to take a chance to do that. I've actually had a question. Gordius asked me recently how to take care of a vinegaroon. Basically, I wanted to start out by just answering that a little bit, give some insights on that. He wanted specifically to know more about how often to feed them, as well as how to deal with the whole hibernation process. So basically, I fed mine in the summer, in the active season. They wake up. Usually they're really active for the summer and fall, and they may hibernate well into spring, and then they usually go down in December. One of mine has already gone down. The other one is waiting for some reason. I'm not sure why, but there you go. I usually feed them up to 3 times a week. I'll offer food up to 3 times a week when they're actively feeding. They seem really ravenous in the summer, and they grow a lot. At least mine do, because that's one thing to keep in mind. An adult may not need to feed as often, but since mine are young, I feed them, up to about 3 times a week, one cricket or one mealworm each time. And then they seem to do really well on that. Just pick an appropriately sized one. And an appropriately sized one means approximately the size of their, they're probably about the size of their head, something like that. And then I would also say that as far as hibernation goes, make sure they have a deep substrate. I like to use play sand mixed with cocoa fiber. That's what I've used for the past couple of years. Give them some fairly deep substrate, so at least as deep as their body, preferably deeper. Keep it fairly moist because they like to burrow, and with the play sand and the cocoa fiber, that will help them to live fairly comfortably and hibernate in a chamber, because they do dig an underground chamber. If you don't provide a decent substrate for that, they're less likely to do it. Gumball, hey, welcome. You're the first, looks like, first to comment. And Miraculous Illustrator, nice to see you there too. A long time no see. Yeah, it's true. It's been far too long since I've done a live stream. Hopefully the lighting is okay. You can see me. Got some people coming in here. Excellent. Oh, and the first like. How's Isaac doing? He is doing great. He's having a ball. So, yeah, I just heard from him yesterday, or no, Monday. He's doing well. Oh, we've already got 3 likes, 6 people in the house. That's excellent. Thanks everyone for joining. Oh, Miraculous Illustrator, sorry. Got a betta fish. Excellent. What kind is it? And so basically, to kind of wrap up the idea of the hibernation, you get that deep substrate going. I'm trying an experiment with some of the BioDudes Terra Sahara with one of them, and the other one already went down in the other substrate, so I'm trying that to see how it goes. He hasn't burrowed down yet, so I'm wondering if it's the substrate or what it is. And then you just keep that substrate fairly moist for several months. They can hibernate. I've had them hibernate from about December to June. It's not always that long. I think it partly depends on the temperature, but December to June. And you don't bug them. Try to keep them in a dark place if you can. I like to usually line their enclosures, or what I'll usually do is put their enclosure into a box and put a lot of newspaper around it, so it's very dark in there. The darkness seems to help, and they'll often make a little tunnel up against the side of their container, and if they get too much light, I have the suspicion that they don't hibernate as well, so try to keep them very dark, and that seems to help. So hopefully, Gordius, that answers your questions, and I'm going to now look at the chat and see what I've missed. But Gordius, if you have a chance to chime in, let me know. I'll be happy to help. All right, so let's see. So he commented on the Discord server. Is that him, or are you just looking at his computer? I haven't done it, so I'll have to ask his brother if he's been doing that or not. I don't know. So Supreme Gecko, excellent. Wally's here. Hi, just happened to jump onto YouTube. Nice to catch you online. Excellent. I'm glad you were able to catch a live stream. I know you've been thinking about that, being able to do it, so I'm glad you have. And I wanted to ask you, did I cover everything in the isopod video? It was an excellent suggestion. Thank you for suggesting it, and it was really popular. It had over 1,000 views in about a little over 24 hours, so that's pretty good. So thanks again for that excellent suggestion. I just wanted to make sure I covered everything that you asked about. Miraculous Illustrator says, I think he has a veil tail. Cool. What color? I think my favorite color of bettas are the blues and the reds, the ones that are just really vibrantly blue and reds, although the kois are really nice. I might get a koi sometime. Koi betta. Fangs and Fin Shop. Mick, you're in. Excellent. Christmas car cast. Thanks, Mick. Yeah, best wishes to you as well. Miraculous Illustrators. I named him Shuo for my favorite anime. Cool. Supreme Gecko said, excellent video on the isopod discussion. Don't think I have any other follow-up questions. You covered it all. Nice job. Excellent. Glad to hear that. Very glad to know that. And Gumball the baby Triceratops says, wait, why is there no ice outside? Well, it snowed pretty recently, but not, but it melted. The last few years here have been pretty dry. I mean, it's cool outside. It's pretty cold, but there's no ice just because the snow that, we've had a few snowfalls this year, but it melts pretty fast. And Supreme Gecko says, how is the Golden Hoff doing? It's doing well. And it's a lot bigger than it was when I made that video, because I filmed that footage probably, I don't know, a couple of weeks before it went out, maybe, or a week, I don't know, something like that. And it's already a lot bigger, so I am pretty sure it is a Titan or a Hoffman's egg eye. And I've checked on it a few times since. It's growing fast. I'm going to isolate it soon. What I think I'm going to do is get a few, maybe 4 to 6 of its litter mates, or even others that are of similar size. I'm not sure, it's hard to keep track of which litter is which, but put 4 to 6 of them together in a container, and then as soon as I can sex them, if it happens to be a male, I'll just keep 3 females in there, and if it happens to be a female, I'll probably just take all the other ones out except for 1 male, and then get a breeding colony going so that I can get that trait isolated, because I think that would be fabulous. I've heard of other people having them. In fact, I've even seen a few pictures on the internet, but as far as I know, they're only in Europe right now. So getting one on this side of the pond would be great. But yeah, doing great so far. Okay, pink and purple. That's got to be a cool combination for a betta. HC Aqua, hello, welcome. And Supreme Gecko says, congrats, very exciting. Call it Gold Bar Hoff. I like that. That's cool. HC Aqua, have you ever kept a scorpion? Just found one. I think I'm keeping it. Yeah, I actually have 2 scorpions right now. I have a Coahuila devil scorpion and an Asian forest scorpion. I don't think I've ever talked about the Asian forest scorpion on a video yet. I will be soon, because thank you everyone for being a subscriber. I have reached 15,000, and so for that I'm doing a room tour. I put a what do you call it? I put a survey up on the community page, and 95% of the people who responded said they did want a room tour for 15,000. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And in fact, that's what's coming out on Friday if everything goes well. I'm really trying to get that video ready for this Friday. So I've already filmed some of the B-roll for it, and am going to be filming more of it today because I don't have to work today. So I'll be doing that later on. Yeah, and let me know, HC Aqua, if you're interested in some more general scorpion keeping tips. I'm not an expert in scorpion keeping, but I've had one for about 6 months and the other for maybe 3, something like that. And they're pretty easy to keep so far, the ones that I have anyway. Miraculous Illustrator. Soon I'm going to get my 3rd budgie in albino. Cool. I love budgies, as you probably know. They're fun. Oh, Mr. Snake, I'm sorry. Getting your wisdom teeth removed is miserable. I have undergone that particular process, and the anesthetics I took didn't work very well. I had to get triple the dose just to go under, and then I woke up in the middle and they had to give me another dose. So yeah, that was no fun. So I feel for you. What else is going on lately? Let's see. Our snake just recently shed his skin for the 2nd time since we've had him. HC Aqua, yeah, I'd like to hear some basic needs on them. Okay, so remind me of where you are and which species of scorpion you have. But in general, I think, are you in Hawaii? If you are in Hawaii, you can, well, it depends on which part of Hawaii you're in too, because they're the more arid parts of Hawaii. Generally, they're really simple. They're not, you're on Oahu, okay. And windward or leeward side? And as far as catching the scorpion goes, did you catch it on windward or leeward side? because I would go with the humidity. Okay, then I would go with lower humidity and make sure it has a hide. Most scorpions are not too picky as far as water needs go. They have fairly modest water needs, and so if you make sure it has a water dish and everything, but as long as you give it a hide in a water dish and make sure it's eating things like crickets, mealworms, whatever, other small insects, small roaches would work. It only needs to usually eat once or twice a week, and if it can hide well, it'll be good to go. I mean, that has been my experience anyway with most scorpions. And there are some scorpions with more specialized needs and with higher humidity needs, but I would mist a corner of the substrate once or twice a week, something like that, as well as giving it a water dish. But it doesn't need to be a real big water dish or anything. It'll probably be fine. They don't even need a ton of space either. Okay. And okay, I'm going back, catching up on chats here. Hopefully the wiggling is not too distracting. I usually use a tripod, but I don't have one today, so. Supreme Gecko says, which millipedes are you currently keeping? Well, I have some Spirostreptus species 1, and I have a colony of those with about 10 specimens. One is older, and then the rest of them are much younger. I got them from Mickey M, who's also an Aquarimaxer who pops in on the live streams when she can. And she sent me a nice little group of juveniles a while ago, and they're all much bigger now. They're about 3 inches long right now. They'll be getting a lot bigger, of course. And my adult is about 6 inches, maybe a little bigger than that. That's my biggest species that I currently have. I also have ivory millipedes, a breeding colony of those. I think I have somewhere around 40, probably more now because they keep reproducing. So I have somewhere around 30 or 40 bumblebee millipedes. And then I have a mystery species that I'll be revealing soon that I recently got. So that's coming up in an unboxing video. So I won't spoil the surprise for that one, but I think those are all the species I currently have. I've kept flame leg millipedes before. That was my first species. I really liked those a lot, but they're kind of prone to crashing, and I didn't know all I know now about millipedes. I think I could have avoided the crash if I had known then what I know now, but they did crash. So I lost all those, but not until after I had bred them successfully and distributed quite a few offspring into the hobby. So that was fun. And then I've also kept the giant African Cameroon train millipede. It's not the largest species, but it's one of the bigger ones. But I started out with a trio, kept them for a while, eventually lost my females, but I had the male still. And then someone in Florida had a female and didn't have a male. So I sent him the male. He purchased the male in hopes of getting the breeding. And they immediately started mating. So we hope we'll get some babies out of that. And he was planning on sending me some babies too. So we'll see how that goes. Those are all my millipedes, I think. Everything Created says, hey Russ, I was extremely excited this morning. One of my dart frog tadpoles has functional back legs. Excellent. And how long, sorry, I'm still pushing some buttons here. How long do you think it will take to metamorphosis at this point? So it may metamorphose in, well, it depends on temperature, it depends on species, a lot of things, and how big the back legs are. Because once the back legs start being able to move, it might be easily another month, it might be longer, depending. I have one, once you start noticing bulges on the sides of their body, which are the front legs forming within their body, when those bulges are very prominent, it's not going to be long. It might be a week or two before the front legs pop, and then the metamorphosis goes really quickly. So I had one just pop like that. He now has all 4 legs, and within, I estimate, probably 2 to 3 weeks, he will be done. So that's kind of a rough guideline. It's not a great answer, I guess, but hopefully that helps a little bit. All right, so, oh, Little Bob's in the house, nice. Supreme Gecko says, can't wait for the big unveil on the new millipedes. What size enclosure for the 40 ivory? Okay, well, most of them are babies right now. I have 6 adults. I think I have 3 males, 3 females. And the enclosure is, let's see, I'm trying to remember the size. It's bigger than a shoebox. I had it in the 6-quart, I had the colony in the 6-quart shoebox container. for a while, but as the babies started growing, now I have some babies that are a little over an inch long. I moved them into a much larger container. I can't remember the size of it right now, but it's approximately the size, maybe 5 to 7 gallon capacity, right in there. It's a taller one with pretty deep substrate. I probably have, 6 inches of substrate in there and something like that. So it's approximately the size, somewhere between 5 and 7 gallon capacity enclosure on the tall side. Hopefully that helps. Everything created says they are Diorata, 73-degree water in the legs, appeared about 2 weeks ago. Okay. Well, with 73-degree water, that's a pretty good temperature. And the legs appeared, you mean the legs just, you saw legs but they weren't functional, or they began to be functional 2 weeks ago? I don't have a lot of experience with Auratus. I have kept Auratus to a limited extent, never bred them, so I'm not sure how that would affect things. But if they're anything like Leucomelis, mine are and mine are even at slightly cooler temperatures than that right now. So if the legs started to be functional and articulated at, they were only visible 2 weeks ago. Okay. Yeah, it might be a while. You might be looking at 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that. But it's fun to watch the whole process, so that's not really a disadvantage. It just means you have time to watch it. Martin's Tank Talk, welcome. Good to see you here. And, oh, nice, I caught up. All right. So, I'm ready to tackle other questions then. I think I've actually caught up. That doesn't happen that often. But I am really excited for the Dominique's Geeky Life said, what is today's live theme? Well, I started out by giving some tips on vinegaroon care because Gordius had asked for that in a live stream. So I did start out with that, but today's theme is pretty open other than that, now that that is finished. I've done that. So any critter Q&A is on the table. And also, if you want to talk, you want to ask about the 15,000 subscriber room tour, then, or you want to, give some suggestions for it or whatever, then I'm happy to listen to those. Okay. And Jose Oliveira says, hello, I want to buy some live foods from your website, but I can't access it. Let's see. I need to fix that. But what you can do, Jose, in the meantime, I keep meaning to fix that. I'm not sure exactly what's wrong. Something's wrong with the security certificate or something on my website. But what you can do is go to my About tab on my YouTube page, and you'll get my email there. I can't just give it out here because then the bots will get it, and I'll have problems with that. But if you get it from there, you can email me directly, and I will send you my price list for my live foods and other cultures, and we'll get you set up. So Supreme Gecko says, what animal-related Christmas presents are you hoping to get this holiday? Well, I am really hoping for, well, a couple things I asked for as possibilities. I'm not necessarily banking on getting any of these, but I'm hoping for, some of them, and then I'll have to fill in the holes later. But I'm hoping for a thermostat because I'm updating my cricket bin, and I'm using a heat pad. It's not a heat pad, it's like a FlexWatt laminated pad, not like an under tank heater with a kind of sticky kind, but it's one of those FlexWatt ones. And I think it's a little bit too warm, and so I wanted to get a thermostat to be able to regulate that. And I also asked for a Versatool, which is, it can be a wood burner, it can be a plastic cutter, whatever, but it's heated, and I wanted to use that to be able to make the holes in my ventilation holes in isopod and millipede containers using that. So I'm excited about using that possibly to make some better enclosures more easily, because using a drill can be kind of hit and miss. You often, if you're not careful, you can drill a hole and crack some of the transparent plastic containers, things like that. So those are a couple things. What else did I ask for that were animal themed? I think I did ask for some other things as possibilities, but I can't remember what else. But those are two that I would really love to have. And let's see, Little Bob, been too long since I caught one of these streams. True. And Jose Oliveira just saying maybe there's a glitch. Yeah, there is something. I need to figure out what it is. So thanks for the heads up again. Everything Created said, I've been considering an Asian forest scorpion. They're super cheap and I absolutely adore them. Do you have any advice for them? Well, they do need humidity. They need You don't want to run out on humidity. They do better in warm weather, at least they're more active when it's pretty warm. So, but you don't want them to burrow down to an undertake heater and get hurt. So if you put a heater on the side of their enclosure, that's one way to do it. But I'm still kind of, I have a scorpling. My Asian forest scorpion is a scorpling that was locally bred. And so I'm still figuring it out, but I think that that might be the main thing. They seem to be pretty easy. Mine's super aggressive. Whenever I miss the enclosure, he tries to sting the water spray going in. And I'm not even, aiming at him. I'm just trying to spray the aquarium and he goes after it, trying to kill it, which is kind of funny. And Michael Kutruzis, I don't know, I probably slaughtered your last name's pronunciation. Sorry about that. Hi, I'm thinking of getting some Julies and Sumbus in a 90-gallon aquarium. Do you see any problems? And I would also like to add some Parasiprochromis later. Well, I've kept Julies a little bit for a few years. I haven't had Sumbus before, but I'm guessing you'd probably be okay. The aquarium's so big as long as there are plenty of hiding places, but it's hard to say. I've never kept Sumbus at all, so I'm not sure. And the Parasiprochromis, it seems like they would probably leave them alone. They'd be more up in the water column, I would think. And so that may be, something to think about. But it sounds like a cool aquarium. Dominic's Geeky Life says, sounds good. How about you tell us about your bioactive leopard enclosure? I'm curious about how it's doing. Cool. Yeah, I'm totally going to highlight that. I've already taken some B-roll for it in the 15,000 subscriber tour. It is doing really well, and I think it looks better than it ever has. Now that we're getting some good plant growth in there, and we've made some changes on the last update that some of you may have seen. So yeah, I'll make sure to put that in there, and I'm enjoying it. I think if I could go back and do it again, I would still do a deeper aquarium, like a 29-gallon, so I had more space to work with, more vertical space and so on to work with. But I like it a lot better than it was, and now there is more vertical interest in it, both for the gecko and for us. Our gecko is in a state of semi-brumation right now, meaning she's not like in a hard brumation. She does wake up and move around sometimes. Sometimes she stays active for long enough that she'll, heat herself up. She'll go over to her warm hide and heat herself up, and we can feed her a little bit. But we don't feed her very often during the winter months because we don't want her to be in brumation with a belly full of food and it would rot, that would be a problem. So we've kind of avoided that. But other than that, she's doing well in the, so is the bioactive setup. There's a lot of isopods in there, so on, so it's working. Ah, Michael, I got your name right. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, that's true, Little Bob. Accepting food is usually not an issue for them. And 404 not found. Asian painted frog. There's a lot in my home area. Very noisy. Can we keep them, by the way? I don't know. I don't know anything about that species, actually, unless I know about it by a different name. So, interesting. HC Aqua says, I have Julies and Multis together. I think the Julies pick off quite a bit of fry now. Yeah, I had them together for a while, too, and I've heard that they're actually adapted to do that. Their heads are shaped such that they can reach inside the shells and grab the fry. But I've also heard, I think it depends on the species and it depends on the individuals and the setup. I've had some people say that they have huge colonies of Multis in with Julies and they don't seem to be picking off fry, and other people who say, oh, well, I have Multis, but I don't have any fry because I have Julies. So based on the size of the Julies and the particular individual Julies and their aggression level and what they're being fed and all that stuff probably plays into it quite a bit. As well as the particular setup. If you have your Multis, in a really long aquarium in a 125 in one corner with the shells and the Julies are far on the other side and there's a big blank space in between, you're probably going to get less predation than if you have the shells right by the rocks where the Julies are and so on. Let's see. Chris Van Zegeren. Hey, any tips for having isopods in closed terrariums? That's something I've thought about, and I know people do it with springtails, and I've thought about doing it with isopods too. I've had closed terrariums, and I've had plenty of isopods, obviously, but I've never done both at the same time. My suspicion is that, well, what I would say for sure, don't put any armadillidium in such a setup, in a closed terrarium, because they probably won't do very well. The reason I say that is because they tend to need higher ventilation than most isopods, and I would say because of that, I would not risk it. There may be closed terrarium setups where it works. I can't say for sure, but I would say armadillidium and also the Spanish porcelio, because they need more ventilation, I wouldn't try those. But if you have other species, then some of the tropical species probably do pretty well, like tarragonas or dwarf whites. What species do you have in yours, Chris? Okay, let's see. 404 Not Found says, 1 out of 10, how hard is it to keep a pet frog? Unfortunately, it entirely depends upon the species of frog. Some really easy species to keep are the African clawed frog, like the big ones. Super easy. I've kept that species before, and it is very, very easy. There's some other species that are quite simple too. Dart frogs are simple once you get everything set up. It's expensive to set everything up, and it's not necessarily easy to set it up. But once you set it up, as long as you're willing to breed fruit flies, it's really pretty easy to keep them. Let's see. There are other species I've kept too that are super easy. There are other species that are very difficult. So it also depends on what you mean by difficult, because I think if you include setting up the setup in dart frogs, getting them a nice setup, I mean, that does definitely factor into difficulty, and so they're difficult in that way. But once you've got everything set up, they're super simple. The dwarf clawed frogs that you can get from pet stores are pretty simple too, partly because they don't need live food. So yeah, it totally depends on the type of frog that you're keeping. But there are some out there that are super easy. Pyro Toad, hello and welcome. So Chris Van Zegeren says, I currently have and they seem to do fine, but I'm not sure if I need to add leaves or other food. Well, I would say as long as they seem to be doing fine, you probably don't need to add anything. They're going to be feeding on some of the leaves as they die off and everything. If you notice that there are no dead leaves, I would add some leaf litter to the closed vivarium once in a while, or maybe some other food. But I think it's probably safer to add a little bit of leaf litter than it would be to add something like fish food, because in an enclosed space like that, you're going to get mold really fast. Even if you have springtails, that mold might go out of control. That would be my suspicion. So I would say add a little leaf litter now and then if it seems like there isn't any. But otherwise, I would say just go with it, and their population is going to limit itself somewhat depending on the availability of resources like food. Illegal Bob says, my guppies are kind of getting out of control at this point. Did a water change the other day and it took around 2 hours because I couldn't stop scooping up babies. Yeah, I know what you mean. My blue star endlers are getting out of control. I've sold quite a few of them, but they just keep having so many babies that I can't keep up with them by selling them. I'm not sure what to do. I have a ton of them in my 20-gallon tank, and I recently had to switch some things around in my 20-gallon tank because there are so many fish in there. The algae was getting kind of out of control, but what I found that is helping a lot is I planted some pothos in the back, and now I have some really nice pothos growth starting. And that pothos is, the leaves and the stems are out of the tank and the roots are in the tank. They're pulling a lot of nutrients out, evidently, because the algae is starting to die back, the other plants are doing better, and the pothos is doing great. It looks amazing. And so they're getting, all kinds of waste from those endlers. Okay, so let's see, where am I? Okay, so Chris, yes, so just backyard isopods, not sure what species it is. Thank you. Okay, cool. Hopefully they're a porcelio, not a Spanish, big giant porcelio, but just a normal porcelio or something like that. And if they're doing well so far, they'll probably keep doing well, especially if you see them breeding. So hopefully they do well. And Little Bob, you got a snake. How have I missed so much? It's been a while. Yeah, it's a little corn snake, and he's a beauty. And we're really enjoying him. He's very relaxed, and is doing well. And like I think I mentioned, he shed his skin for the second time just the other day. And is putting on some weight. He was a little underfed when we got him, and we're taking care of that. So Pyro Toad says, I'm getting a common snapping turtle today. Cool. I would love to get into turtles again sometime. And Thanks for subscribing. And 404 not found. You're welcome. Hopefully that helps. Pyrotod says Pac-Man frogs are good for frogs too. That makes sense. I've never kept those, but that makes a lot of sense because they're such eager eaters. They don't need a lot of space because they're kind of sedentary toads. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Andrew's Animal says, do you ever plan on getting any salamanders? Well, I have had salamanders before, and in fact, we have one right now. We have an axolotl. My daughter owns an axolotl. My young daughter who lives with us has an axolotl, and so I am involved in that as well. And axolotls are great. They're super easy. We keep it downstairs in the basement where it's nice and cool, so the temperature in the height of summer in the water gets to maybe 74, but in the winter it's down in the 60s most of the time, and the rest of the year it's low 70s, except for maybe in the middle of August when it gets up to 74 for a short period of time. So yeah, I've also kept tiger salamanders. They're the only species of salamander native to my state. Have kept quite a few of those as a kid, and those are fun. They're big eaters, and they're very similar to axolotls, really, same genus. And then I've also kept fire-bellied newts. That was many, many years ago when I was like 13. And I'll have to think if I've kept any others. But like I said, there's not very many available in my state, not very many, because there's only one native here, and then yeah, there's just not a lot available in the stores. You do see the fire-bellied newts once in a while and things like that, but that's about it. But those are some that I've kept. Crystal Lewis says, my morning geckos are going on 11 months at this point and still no sign of eggs. When did yours start laying? I feed Pangea, fruit flies, and put in cut fruit off and on. Okay. Well, 11 months, I would say that is kind of a long time for them not to be laying. It is possible that they're laying somewhere hidden. That does happen. While they usually pick someplace high to lay their eggs, sometimes they'll actually burrow. I've had them burrow under like wooden decor and lay eggs on the underside of the decor, things like that. So that does happen. But it could be something else is going on. That is, like I said, kind of a long time. Mine, I think, started around 8 months old, I want to say. And it's not uncommon for them to start a little earlier than that. So if they're not producing and it's been 11 months since you've had them, or they're 11 months old, either way, that is a little bit concerning. With that diet, do you also give them supplementary calcium on their fruit flies? I would say that may help if you make sure they get some supplementary calcium in addition to that. Maybe you're already doing that. Crystal says they have a day-night cycle pre-set up and appear to be thriving. Am I just being impatient? No, I think there could be something going on. I mean, I wouldn't worry about it too much. One thing to keep in mind too is that as it's cooler in the winter, I've noticed mine slow down. Mine have not laid and they've laid eggs before. They usually lay quite a few. They tend to slow down in the winter, and they haven't laid any that I've noticed, at least, for a few months. So that could be the issue in your case, is just they've cooled down for the winter, and they're not going to be laying as much. I've also had them lay eggs in the winter. I'm not saying it never happens. I've had it happen, but they do slow down. Okay. Natural predator for the guppy babies. They don't eat their own babies for some reason. So depending on your view, I mean, they're doing something really good or really bad. So yeah, that is a bit of a problem. Most fish that you put in there that will eat them will probably eat too many of them. I experimented for a while years ago with putting dwarf African clawed frog, or a couple of them, in with my guppies. And that seemed to help for a while. But then the situation got kind of weird, and they weren't as... something happened with the dart frogs. They weren't as healthy in that setup as I was hoping they would be. So I don't know if that's the best thing. Little Bob says it's probably not because I kept yapping about how you should get a snake, but I'm taking credit either way. That's funny. There were a lot of factors, but the fact that people were asking me about getting a snake did help it, percolate in my mind a little bit. Don Gallagher, hi from Arizona. Well, welcome. Glad you're here. Pyrotoad, how many pets do you have? I don't know exactly. I'd have to count them, but that would be tricky. I mean, one thing, I'm not going to count, every Daphnia that I have or anything like that. I couldn't even count every isopod I have. But species-wise, it's something over 50, I think. So I'll have to, maybe the room tour on Friday that comes out should help with that. I hope so. Miraculous Illustrator said, I wish I could get an axolotl, but I can't find one for sale. You can definitely find them online, but then you have to pay extra for shipping and all of that. So there's that. And Little Bob says, I haven't talked much about your beautiful beard. It's surprising for someone like me. Aquaballs, welcome. Let's see. Elaine Smith says, do you mix your own substrate? For isopods and millipedes, I do. I've used others, but currently I mix my own, and that's mostly what I've done. And in fact, I have a video somewhere that talks about it. I'm trying to remember which video that is. I think in the video on the review for isopod and millipede substrate, I talk about my own and how I make it, although I have made some changes. Actually, one of my isopod care videos, I think I talked about it more recently, a more updated version. But I get organic compost, and then I get some, what do I use? It's alder chips, not alder pellets for use in barbecue grills. And then I get, it was leaves. I use the leaves, of course, and I do about 1/3 of each. And then, I'll try to put some calcium in there. And I usually add that as food, actually. And then, yeah, that's what I do for isopods and millipedes. It seems to work well. I base it on Mickey M's very fussy millipede substrate. That's her title for it. That is a thread on arachnoboards. And it's not exactly the same because of what I can get and what I can't get. But, yeah, that is what I use, basically. Supreme Gecko says, suggestion for room tour, maybe film as you're feeding so the animals come out. Definitely going to do some of that. Like I was mentioning, I've been filming some of the B-roll already, and for our leopard gecko, for example, I do feed her during that, so you can see her eating, and I'll do that for some of the other species too, definitely. It's a good idea, and I will definitely do that. Krista Lewis says, yes, they do get extra calcium dust, but I'll look around in their hard drive. I didn't even think of looking, though. Okay, so maybe you do have some. Excellent. Glad to hear they're getting the extra calcium dust, and hopefully you will spot some eggs soon. Heart of Snails, hi from the UK. Hi and welcome. I remember your name. It's hard to forget that one. And Don Gallagher, I missed what kind of snake did you get? It is a hypomelanistic corn snake. So a very nice snake. We wanted to get a beginner snake because though I kept a few snakes short-term as a kid, I had never kept any long-term, so I wanted to get into that with a really, really easy snake, and not disappointed. It's a really easy snake, but really fun too. And Little Bob says, Russ, don't act like you decided to get a snake recently. It wasn't your choice of whether you wanted to get one. It was your wife's choice of whether she was going to let you. Well, there's some truth to that, definitely. Heart of Snails, how come there doesn't seem to be isopods coming out of South America? Good question. Yeah, you don't see a lot of species in the hobby, new species that are being imported coming out of South America. I don't know. I know that, well, my understanding is that there weren't very many native species. Oops, sorry. It's kind of weird doing this in the car. There weren't very many native species of isopods in North America because of glaciation events, where there used to be some and they got wiped out from glaciers, and that's why there weren't any earthworms here either, and now there are earthworms and isopods of various species that have been introduced. I don't know what the deal is with South America, though, because I wouldn't expect a lot of glaciation events to be occurring in the parts of, most of South America, so I don't know. Good question. Welcome to Pokesaurus. Ant Scotland, hello, remember me? Yes, I do. Welcome back. I've been thinking about and looking into the little ant feeders, the liquid ant feeders a bit for my velvet ants. Especially for weekends, because normally I keep my velvet ants at work and I give them, their moist food at every day while I'm at work generally, and then during the weekends it kind of dries out a little bit, and it doesn't seem to cause any problems. They're just, they do fine, but I would rather have them have access to some liquid food during the weekends when I'm gone. So I've been looking into ant feeders, and it's been interesting. I'm also more tempted to keep ants again. I don't know if I could get my wife to be on board there, but it would be fun. Dominic's Geeky Life says, I know I could just Google, but can you explain why isopods need very good ventilation? Does it have something to do with their gills? Yeah, yeah, the way isopods work, and it of course depends on the species. Some species need very, very little ventilation, like the dwarf whites don't need much. And there are some others too that really don't need a lot. But in general, the way their gills work, and if they get hyper hydrated, or there's too much humidity, it interferes with their breathing. Yeah, because their gills are adapted to breathe in air. So that is basically the problem, yes. And some of the ones that are adapted to live in drier situations just can't handle too much humidity. And so Armadillidium and Spanish Porcellio are some examples of those. So my big titans, my Porcellio hoffmannseggi from Spain, they have a big screened area. All of my Armadillidiums have a screen as part of their ventilation. So hopefully that helps. Everything Created said, I made a ridiculously long plant list for bioactive setups. I'm ready to copy and paste it here. Cool. I'm always open for more ideas there. I feel like in my dart frog vivarium, for example, I have a few species and I like them, but I'm always interested in more. So I'd like to switch out some of those maybe. So I'd love to see that. Pyrotoad, do you have any toads? Any toads per se right now? No, I have in the past. And they are cool. I like toads a lot. I think they have a lot of personality. But I don't have any currently. HC Aqua says, I always wanted a corn snake. Yeah, I've always wanted a snake. At least I've wanted a snake for a long time and finally can. And HC Aqua can't have any snakes. Pyrotoad has one. Yeah, the only snakes you can find in Hawaii really are the Brahminy blind snakes, which are cool. I ran into a few of those when I lived in Hawaii. And they are probably... they're not dangerous, and they're pretty impossible to remove from the state, but they're the only species that occurs there. That little guy will live 20 years if you treat him right. So this is definitely a long-term guy, but he's very hardy and easy to care for. Yeah, and sometimes corn snakes can even live longer. But yeah, definitely should have a long lifespan, and ours is young. He's only about 15, 16 months old, so long time. Don Gallagher says, many years ago I kept and bred mini corn snakes. I still have a handful of colubrids. Cool. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in dabbling in breeding snakes at some point, but probably not for a while. But I think that'd be fun. So Ant Scotland, your opinions on bearded dragons? Well, I have kept bearded dragons in terms of babysitting them a couple of times. I've never owned one. I've also worked with one in the zoo, the education collection that I worked with there. So my experience is somewhat limited, but I think as far as personable, ones that are easy to handle and get along with that way, they're high up on my list. I think they're great that way. They do require fairly large enclosures, and feeding them is pretty involved. When they're young, they need a lot of high protein, things like insects, properly supplemented insects. When they're older, they'll still eat some of that, but they're more towards the vegetation end, and you need to make sure to get them a pretty good variety of vegetable matter. And so yeah, I would say they tend to be fairly expensive to feed unless you get your own dubia roach colony or something like that to feed them with. Otherwise, if you're buying your own crickets and things like that, you're going to go through way too many. They're just expensive that way. But they're awesome as far as being a pet you can handle and so on. They do need UVB, basically, things like that. They need a nice hot spot. So that is another expense. Little Bob says, Russ, you better not get addicted to snakes. Once you get one, then you get one more. Then you think maybe I should breed. You start breeding and buying more snakes, and you lose all control. And now you're the only one who can't see the problem. It does happen. Supreme Gecko, have you ever considered keeping mantis? In fact, I do have a mantis right now. I have a giant Asian mantis, not golden Asian mantis, giant Asian mantis, Hierodula species. And it's pretty cool. I got it when it was the size of a mosquito from Bugs in Cyberspace, and raised it up to an adult. And it's been really cool. It's been fun. I've kept the Chinese mantis that I've caught outside as adults or as young ones and raised them up to be older. I've done that before. This is my first time buying a mantis essentially, and raising it from a tiny little, I think it was maybe an L2 when I got it. And it's been an adult for a few months now. and it's doing pretty well. I feel like it's not, when I feed it crickets, I wish I could feed it other things. I mean, I give it mealworms too. When it was little, it ate the fruit flies and it was fine. And I give it the crickets. I feel like it generally eats part of a cricket and then drops it. It never quite finishes the cricket, but it seems to do okay anyway. The Pokesaurus says, I can never be on board with ants after seeing Walking with Beast. I'm not familiar with that one. Everything Created says snake plant, pothos, philodendron, coffee plants, arrowhead plants, spidergrass, silver pothos, vanilla orchid, mosses, anthurium ferns, bromeliads, tillandsia species, peperomia plants, pilea. Cool, I've kept a lot of those. Let's see, which ones have I not kept in a vivarium? I've kept some of these out of a vivarium and not in, but let's see. I've never kept a coffee plant or a vanilla orchid, but I think I would like to. I think that'd be cool. But I think everything else on the list I've kept. And yeah, those are all good plants. I especially love the smaller snake plants, the ones that don't get really tall, so you don't have to clip them. They're especially good in vivariums. And Ant Scotland said, also, if you're tempted to keep ants, I'd say go for it. It's rewarding. Cool. What species would you recommend for a beginner in the U.S.? Oh, here's some more Everything Created. Polka dot plants. Good idea. Dieffenbachia, I've kept those. Yep, creeping fig. I love those in vivarium. Cryptanthus, never done. Should try that. Dracaena, never done that in a vivarium, but should try that. Lucky bamboo, I've had them, but not in it. Aglaonema, I've kept before, never in a vivarium. Should try that. Creeping Jenny, I've kept, but not in a vivarium. Need to try that. Phalaenopsis orchids, never kept those, I don't think. Purple passion plant, yeah, good idea. Bella palm, done that. The last one I kept died though. I switched it out for a ficus tree, and the ficus tree is doing really. Ponytail palm, I love those. Want to try it? Wandering Jupe, kept that. That's a good one. Pyrotude says, awesome. I have a cane toad and some others, but I got to go. Peace. I love cane toads. I hope you watch this part later, and I can tell you how much I love cane toads. Can't keep them in my state. My understanding is that they're illegal here, but I used to see them all the time in Hawaii and loved them. They were so fun. I would catch them once in a while just for ducks. It was fun. Yeah, that was a great list, Everything Created. And I've kept, like I said, I kept many of them, but not all. There's a few there I just need to try in a vivarium. H. Aqua says, yeah, I actually kept those little guys, but didn't really count them since they're small as worms. Yeah, they are. That's true. Pokesaurus, what can you tell me about caimans? Well, I've never kept them. They're interesting, crocodilians, but I have no experience keeping them, and I don't have I don't have much information for you that as far as pet keeping goes. I mean, I could give you some general biology of them and so on, but yeah, they're interesting creatures. I wish I could tell you more. Little Bob says, apart from expense, beardies are great pets. Yeah, I think that's the deal right there. They are expensive, but they are cool. Hardest snails. Do you have any aquatic snails? Yes, and I've kept quite a few species. Currently, let's see, I have Malaysian trumpet snails. I have a couple different types of nerites for algae control, and I have assassin snails. I've kept quite a few other species as well. I've kept ram's horns, I've kept pond snails, I've kept Lepnea pond snails. Oh, I have Acryloxus, the little tiny transparent cap snails too. So yeah, I do. And Hard as Nail says, I love my Faunus atter. Which one is that? Terry Wright says, what's the best container for isopods other than the great outdoors? I like the plastic storage containers. A great one to start with is a 6-quart shoebox size container. It's easy to customize the ventilation for, and it's about the right size to get a starter culture of most species going. So yeah, that's probably my best recommendation. Although if you're really worried about fungus gnats, it's better to get like a tightly sealing Tupperware container and then putting some really fine fabric ventilation on it so that the fungus gnats can't get in or out. Miraculous Illustrator says, I finally found a seller that sells frozen fish foods. I'm going to get some bloodworms tomorrow. Those should be popular with your fish. Oh, the Pokesaurus. I know your son has seen Walking with Beasts. Oh, Walking with Beasts. Yes, I have seen that. Never recommend to the faint of heart and weak of stomach. Yes, I have seen that. I've watched it with him, in fact. Yeah. Jack LaMountain. I'm thinking of raising bed bugs. Other than me, what do they eat? Yeah, that's not one on my list of raising. Although assassin bugs, on the other hand, they're related. I would go there. I would totally do that. I don't know if my wife would go for that since they do have some pretty strong bites. Supreme Gecko says, I wonder if your mantis would enjoy black soldier fly larva or peanut beetle larva, something a bit softer. Yeah, maybe I could try the black soldier fly larvae. They're kind of expensive in my area, and I can't really raise them here. They don't do all that well here, from what I understand, if you raise them. But maybe I could just buy some. And I did know someone who raised peanut beetles, but I have not tried that. So HC Aqua, you use them to create green water? You use cane toads to create green water? Hard as snails. Surely we could do all sorts of bonsai trees and vivariums. That's kind of what I did with the ficus tree. There's a certain kind of ficus, I'm not sure what species it is, but it's not like the Ficus benjamina, but it is a ficus that looks very similar to Ficus benjamina. And they, in the nursery, they had the stem with a very thick stem, so it looks like a trunk. But they had trimmed it regularly, so the leaves on top were growing out of it. So it looked like a bonsai tree, essentially. I mean, not one that's been trained extensively, but it looks pretty cool. I planted that in one of my morning gecko frames, and it's growing like crazy. I have to trim it back all the time. Looks super cool, though. Ant Scotland says, a good species vary from state to state based on where you are. Carpenter ants seem like great starter, or Brachymyrmex, or even a Phenogaster. Cool. I'll have to keep that in mind then. Thank you for the information. Everything Created says, hi, if anyone needs beardy advice, you can message me on Amino at Jordan Keeps Exotics. I also have a detailed care sheet. Cool. Don Gallagher says, my state is full of Bufo alvarius, Colorado river toad. I leave the porch lot down all night to feed them in the summer. We also have other toads, but primarily Bufo. Cool. We have a few different Bufo species in this state too. I think Bufo boreas or Bufo borealis was the species that used to be really common, and now it's disappearing in the state, which is awful. But down in the south, we have quite a few species that show up, and when I was down there, I have a video with one of them in it, in fact, and I was thinking it was a red-spotted toad, but I'm not sure it was. But it was Bufo for sure. Down in Washington County, along the Virgin River, which is in the southwestern corner of the state, there were toad tadpoles everywhere and toads everywhere down there, and it was fun to see. Because I don't see toads up here very often anymore, although I did when I was younger. I saw them more often. And Hardest Snail says, Faunus ater is the black devil snail. I'm going to have to look that up. Okay. Terry Wright says, isopod's food is the dirt and rotting wood. That is their main source of food, yes. Basically the rotting leaves, the rotting wood, and the dirt, essentially. But I do supplementary feed them with things like fish food and bug burger and bits of fruits and vegetables as well, and calcium sources like ground eggshell. Okay. Venom says, hello, do you have any experience with velvet worms? I see some in the pet shop. They're wild caught in New Zealand. I think about buying them. Can I keep them in a group, and what about breeding them? You know, I've researched velvet worms a little bit. I have not kept them. I know there are some species that are very, very sensitive to temperature, and people have to keep them in wine coolers and so on, so their temperatures are down in the 60s Fahrenheit, which is pretty cool. But there are other tropical species that'll do okay at room temperature, from what I've researched. But and I know, they're predatory and so on. I've never kept any of those, so I can't give you any really good information. But I would say that Arachnoboards has a few good threads on them that I have read through. So if you want to check that out, that may be helpful to you. Oh, Hardest Snails. Oh, thank you for the super chat. That is awesome. I appreciate that. And did you have a question to go with it, or is this just, thanks for the live stream? Either way, I'm very grateful, so I really appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Little Bob says, Terry, yes, essentially decaying matter, moldy, and similar things. They're great for cleaning up vivariums of some of your larger creatures, and they're very easy to keep. Well, you're welcome. If you're not a member of Arachnoboards Venom, I definitely suggest becoming a member on there. And you could ask about velvet worms, and you'd get some people who have kept them also to answer further questions, as well as the older threads. Wow, Heart of Snails, another super chat. That is really cool. Oh, I love your avatar, by the way. It's very appropriate for your name. Super cool. Yes, you Heart of Snails, you are further appreciated. I really appreciate the super chats. They help keep things going. Some of you may or may not know. Oh, just to say thanks. Well, thank you, and you're welcome. Dinosaurs Terror World, hi. Been a while. Good to see you here. So as I was saying, the Aquarimax, I run it all from money that I get from it. I don't use part of my paycheck to take care of all my animals. It all comes from taking care of the animals. So every time I get a super chat, I really appreciate it. So that really helps with all, taking care of everything. So Heart as Snails, that's awesome. You just made my Christmas better. So there you go. Thanks a lot. Yes, I do indeed have a snake. It's true. Dinosaurs Terror World says, my dubia roaches finally turned into a big colony. Good. How are your geckos liking the, how's your gecko liking the dubia roaches? And you have a beardy too, don't you? Oh, thank you, Dinosaurs Terror World. Happy holidays. I appreciate that. Happy holidays to everyone. I know that not everybody celebrates the same holidays I do, but if you're celebrating a holiday in the next little while, happy holidays. If you're not, I just hope you have a great day. Is it really super distracting that I look like I have like shadows all over my face? If it is, I'll try to move. If it's not, don't worry about it. Yeah, we were talking about that a little while ago. I have a corn snake. So technically it's my youngest son's snake. I live in the state of Utah, and to Miraculous Illustrator to answer that. Oh, thank you, little Bob. I love how Russ really gets to know and communicate with his fans. I try. There are a lot of people that watch and a lot of people that participate, and when I can, I try to remember what I can. Limbu Nua Hung says, I read that dubia roach can cause allergy reaction. Is it true? That's my understanding. I have a suspicion that I'm allergic to roaches myself. I haven't kept any, and I'm not going to. My wife has asked me not to, and I'm okay with that. But when we lived in Hawaii, we didn't really have much choice in the apartment complex we were in because of the way it was huge apartment complex, all connected buildings, and the walls were all connected to each other. And so somebody would spray, and the roaches would actually come through holes from one part of the building to another, and it was pretty awful. So I tended to have asthmatic reactions there a lot, issues with my lungs because of that. I think it's because of the roaches. I'm not entirely sure. But I would not be surprised to find out. I have heard that roaches can be allergenic, yeah. Elaine Smith says, happy holidays to you and your family and also everyone on or watching this video. Well, thank you, Elaine, and the same to you and everyone else. And Dinosaur Terror World says, sorry for being gone for a while. It's just life gets in the way. Totally get that. Life has been busy. I haven't done very many live streams because life has been super busy lately. Dominic's Geeky Life says, have you considered doing more herping videos? The previous one you made was fun to watch. Certainly. Actually, I got to tell you this. I'm planning on taking another trip down to southern Utah, I think in April. It's kind of a nebulous plan so far, but that's kind of the idea. We're going to try to head down there in April, and we're going to hope to do some herping. I mean, I can do herping in my area, just, drive up the canyon 5 minutes away and do that, but there's a lot more variety down south, honestly. So here we'll, might find gopher snakes and garter snakes, rattlesnakes, definitely. I see those fairly frequently. Whiptail lizards, the Celoporus species lizards, a couple things like that. There are bullfrogs around, things like that. So yeah, I'll definitely try to do some more herping videos this summer. Down south there's a huge profusion of lizards and inverts and everything that I can see. So. Oh, I just got another super chat here. And Supreme Gecko, $5, says, thanks for pointing this out. Russ, happy holidays. Well, thank you, Wally, and the same to you. Happy holidays to you, and I really appreciate it. That is awesome. And if there's anything that you'd like me to address, or if this is just a thanks and happy holidays, that's great too. But I'm happy to address what I can. But I really appreciate it, Wally. You've got some. If anyone has not checked out Supreme Gecko, you should. He's got some cool stuff going on there. He's got experience with a lot of amazing geckos. So check it out, everyone. Let's see. Venom says, I'm from Europe. Do you keep any European species? Yeah, a lot of my isopods are European. Let's see what else I keep that might be European. That's the first thing that comes to my mind that's European is my isopods. And Don Gallagher says, Utah, cool. You guys have striped Pacific gopher snakes, I believe. We may. I need to look into that. I've only seen just like the gopher snakes that people call blow snakes here mostly. And they're not the striped ones, but I need to look into that. That would be cool. Terry Wright says, asthmatic allergy to roaches too. Happy holidays and thanks for the isopod tips for the little guys. You're welcome. And Dominic's Geeky Life says, yay, thank you. Make sure to have fun. Oh, we will. Herping is one of the, every summer we try to go herping as much as we can and we love it. Dinosaur Terror World, what's going on with the beetles? The beetles are at home. I took them home for the Christmas holidays and they're doing great. I'm not getting, none of the larvae have grown up, the larvae that I saw. This summer, I'm gonna, if I can, I'm gonna set up an incubator and see if I can get them actually to grow out. That would be cool, but yeah. Let's see. And Little Bob says that was probably the spray rust, more than likely not the roaches. And if it was roach related, it probably wasn't the roaches themselves, more likely the feces and the fumes that built up from them. That's what I was thinking, actually. I should have clarified, probably from the feces, but it is a byproduct of the roaches. Let's see. Hardest Snail says, dream pet if you won the lottery. Let's see. Dream pet if you won the lottery. Oh, good question. There are so many creatures I want to keep. I got to say it. I'm going to give you a couple of ideas. Okay. One, I would love to get a pair of red-sided garter snakes. They are amazing, and I would love to try breeding them. I would also love a Mexican black king snake. I would love a herd of tortoises outside. I can't really do that where I live because it gets too cold, but I would love to do that. I would love to do a reef aquarium someday. With all the corals and everything going on. There are so many different directions I love to go. I love to do seahorses, and those are of course expensive. Let's see, a tegu. If I had a big setup for it, I might do a tegu. I would love that. I think there are so many. It's hard to even say. Isopod wise, I would love to get some Porcellio magnificus and some rubber duckies. So those are some. Am I planning on getting yourself a present for Christmas? Well, when I get a present for myself, it's usually something that I need for animals. I'm thinking of buying our snake a new enclosure, actually, because the enclosure he came in, was a 20-gallon high, and he's a corn snake, and he's a young corn snake, so it's fine for now, but he's going to outgrow it, and I actually have a 40-gallon tank I'm going to put him in eventually, but that's not set up yet, and I would like to get a 20-gallon long, keep him in that for a while, and then, eventually I can put something else in that when he outgrows it and put him in the 40. Okay. And Supreme Gecko, you've helped so much with your videos. Thanks for the shout out. Well, you're welcome. You deserve it. You taught me a lot of stuff about micro geckos a long time ago before, Aquarimax was much of a thing. So I appreciate that. Oh, Miraculous Illustrator, you're in Greece. Okay, cool. I don't think I realized that. And Dinosaur Terror World, your channel is blowing really fast. Congratulations. Well, thank you. I owe it all to you guys. You're the ones who are doing that, which I really appreciate. Nick Z says, hey, Russ, love the videos. Keep it up. Happy holidays from Florida. Thank you, and happy holidays to you as well. I loved the one time I visited Florida. I really enjoyed all the creatures there. That was some fun herping, I'll tell you that. Dinosaur Terror World says, yesterday was Qatar National Day. It was so busy yesterday. Well, happy holiday to you then, because that's your national day. That's awesome. I hope you enjoyed it. Terry Wright says, in late fall in Oklahoma, we find many yellow ladybugs in university buildings. Can't save them all. Will they just find their way out? Some of them probably will, but in my experience, a lot of bugs that accidentally end up in a building end up drying out and dying. So I don't know. I appreciate you saving what you can, and that's great. You can only do what you can do. But hopefully some of them do find their way out. It kind of depends on how they got in, but yeah, I think a lot of them end up drying out. I remember as a kid finding beetles on the window and then breathing on the window, and the condensation would form around the beetle, and then the beetle would walk around in it and just kind of lick it up, which is kind of gross, but at the same time it's helping the beetle not be so dehydrated. So Little Bob would love to raise American crocodiles in Florida and bring them back. Doesn't want them going extinct. Oh, that would be cool, wouldn't it? That would be a very big setup you'd have to do, but I guess there are people doing that down there. Little Bob says 40 gallon is perfect for a corn snake. That's what I thought. My biggest concern is I want to go bioactive, of course. My biggest concern is that if we do go bioactive, the snake will be hiding too much and it'll be difficult to get him out and handle him. And I know that that's kind of a natural hands-off approach, but at the same time, part of the attraction of a corn snake is being able to handle it, for me at least. Elaine Smith, is there a site that you can get information about saltwater? There are a lot of them. There's some really good ones out there. I like wetwebmedia.com. That's one where I get a lot of information. They have some very, very well-indexed and well-curated frequently asked questions that are answered in detail by a staff of experienced volunteers. So that's a good place to go. There are others too, but I like that one. Don Gallagher says, I herp on my land on the way to work and at work. I live out in the desert between Gila Bend and Casa Grande. I live for herping. Oh, that sounds like a really nice place to do it. I want to go herp down in, further down southwest. I've never really done it a lot in Arizona. I guess I've done a little bit when I was down around the Lake Powell area. But yeah, I would love to get down there and do some more. I've tried a little bit in Southern California as well, but I want to do more of that. Sounds like a great place to do it. Dinosaurs Terror World. Russ, from where did you get the name Aquarimax? Well, my middle name is Max. And when I started getting into this, with my website and my podcast, which is where I started, I thought aquarium plus Max, Aquarimax. And that's how I got into it. So Romalio June says, are you keeping tarantulas as pets? Well, that's one of the few taxons my wife has vetoed completely, so I don't have any tarantulas. She's okay with jumping spiders. She draws the line right about there. She did let us keep a cellar spider too, but no tarantulas. She said no tarantulas, no roaches, nothing with medically significant venom. So those are out. There are plenty of tarantulas without medically significant venom, but there are... I'm going to move my iPad a little bit here because it's getting too much in the sun. It's getting a little warm. I don't want to make it too warm. It's probably also warm from just live streaming. Let's see. And Supreme Gecko says, my lottery wish list would include a handful of cool geckos and, of course, a group of those gold bar hops I've been hearing about. Well, I can put you down as the first one once I get them actually, get the strain established. That's cool. Okay, guys, I'm going to have to wrap up pretty soon here. My wife just texted me and mentioned we're going to have to leave in a minute, so just letting you know I'm going to have to wrap up. I'm going to try to catch what I can here really quickly first. Ants Murin Avonturen, hello all, welcome. Dinosaurs Terror World says, Russ, do you want to use any other editing programs other than iMovie? At this point, I'm just using iMovie because that's all I need for what I'm doing. I do use Adobe Premiere Pro when I'm doing other projects that need special effects or anything, but my videos don't really need them. So, yeah, it does what I need for now, but I, would be interested in doing things that allowed me to do things like chroma keying and stuff like that maybe in the future. And, oh, good. Little Bob went to give a sub for Supreme Gecko. Awesome. H. Chiako says, how's your wife doing? Haven't seen her in quite some time. Yeah, she hasn't been on the live stream for a while. She's doing well, but everything's so busy that usually I end up doing a live stream when she's doing something else so that when we're together, we can focus on being together. We luckily got a really nice date yesterday. Basically all day our kids were in school and I was off work, and we took a day to just enjoy each other's company. It was great. So she's doing well, but life is busy. Dinosaurs Terror World says, what's your biggest goal of this year? Wow. Good question. I think I'm going to give you a short-term goal that I'm working on. That is getting my 15,000 subscriber video out this Friday. That's what I'm kind of focusing on as far as that kind of stuff goes, because it's going to take a lot of energy to do that. But I know that's more short term than you're asking. Venom says, how's the law in USA about wild caught and keeping reptiles and amphibians? It is allowed. It depends on the state heavily. It really, really depends where you are. In my state, I believe there are no native species you're allowed to keep if you catch them in the same state. If you catch them out of the state, I think it's possible. And ants, Mir and Aventura, and yeah, I am actually thinking about doing some ants at some point. Don Gallagher says, different rattlesnake species are on your life list. This is the place to do it. Are you on Facebook? I am. You can find me as Aquarimax, and please feel free to connect with me. And Little Bob says, what? Your wife lets you get jumping spiders but not tarantulas? Yes, that is the truth. Supreme Gecko says, great video. Thanks again. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Well, thank you again, Wally, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you. Like button people. Thank you, Heart of Snails. I appreciate that. We're getting some likes up there, and any more would be much appreciated. Limbu Nua Hung, do you have any advice on growing bromeliads? Well, the kinds I've grown are tillandsias, which I've had some success with, and now I've got some Neoregelia bromeliads, and I would say for the Neoregelias, put them in a dart frog terrarium, and that seems to work really well for me so far. Tillandsias are a little bit trickier in my experience because they need more ventilation. So I would say if you soak them in water that is like half distilled or RO and half maybe tap water, so it's not too hard, and with some appropriate fertilizer a couple of times a week, and then put them in a fairly good light place, that is a place with good light in a window or something, they do fairly well. That way I've had them flower and produce pups for me and so on. Supreme Gecko says, try Lightworks for video editor, easy to use. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Little Bob, for the shout out for subs. And let's see. Do some states of the USA don't allow to keep bulldogs? I'm not sure about that. Elaine Smith says, Don Gallagher, you're right about Utah. Utah is an awesome state. I found the friendliest and helpful people. I even enjoyed the creatures. Don says, great stream. Have a good one, brother. Well, thank you. I appreciate being here. Hope to see you back again. Hope to see you all back again. And I have got to go because my wife is texting me that we've got to go. So happy holidays to those of you who are celebrating holidays, and everybody have a great day.